Okay, something that had come up in my mind that I was thinking about that I don't think enough people who are sort of red pilled, we really have a better understanding of some of the history of like why you wouldn't be left wing, why there's this incredible normalness to being right wing. One of these things, because of something I had said earlier, I was thinking about women have always run normal businesses. There are quite a number of types or in our economy. Once we started any form of rather efficient automation, I mean, this would even be coming up with like a forge where you had multiple people working on multiple uh, parts to something, like say a wagon. That they're people are working on all the different bindings and all the different different types of nails and bolts and stuff, and the parts of the hub, and so as to produce it all at one time. This was actually, if I remember correctly, one of the problems with firearms in the earliest days of America is there was no real mass production of firearms. You made maybe a batch, but that these were sort of not exactly one-offs, but it's just that they weren't necessarily always exactly the right size and universal in how their mechanisms would work. There had not become standards yet. All of those types of things, these are these professions that you end up finding men are particularly interested in. It makes some sense that after at least 100 years, let's give it the 18, let's say 1850s, really. I would say fair, that'd be fair. 1850s. Because that's when you start to see standardization, if I remember correctly, of railroad tracks in the United States. So shortly thereafter, after the Civil War, you would start getting standard, as the Northern Army and stuff started to set, like, this is going to be the measurement for this from that point on. And different corporate barons would do so as well in the late 1800s. So that you would end up getting these groups of men who would specialize in this type of standardization. This is what they're into. While at the same time, you would have what would be the women's contribution to the economy. Now that there's standards for all of these various conveyances, well, why would you need conveyances? To transport goods such as salt, sugar, and butter. These key ingredients. Key ingredients. Anyone who's spent any time around a lot of women know. These are key ingredients to everything that makes women and children happy. You put some sugar in it. You put some butter on it. So, you always need salt. Just enough salt. These end up becoming so valuable. They become so key. This idea of sweets and salt and the way that we are able to transport them, that we end up obliterating child mortality. child mortality from sometime like the 1850s, we could look at the child mortality rate, and it went from something like 3 out of every 10 children to now like 1 out of every, I think it's something like, 200 or something nuts. Our child mortality rate is extraordinarily small, 1 out of 10, something, I forget, it was something very impressive, very, very, very impressive for where we were at within only 100 years. And that prior to that 100 years, that mortality rate was just if you only lost 3 to 4 out of every 10, that you had a pretty solid number of children left alive. And one always died typically in their early adulthood or something like that. Like a daughter and child, when in her childbirth, a son gets kicked by a horse or killed by some, bandit or something. I mean, all kinds of, disease killing people all the time. So you had a litter of children, just a handful could survive and maybe take care of you and mom if you survived, long enough. And that's just how life would just everybody. I mean, everybody on the planet was like this, except for these small cities that had maintained, as time went on and weren't too chaotic, didn't have anybody raiding them too often, came to some period of peace where they actually could have sugar, salt, and butter. And without women saying, I want salt, I want sugar, I want butter. They remembered what these things were. Men had to remember, this used to be the measurement for this, but now it's this measurement. There's all, no, this is why. No, this is why it's now this standard. This is, blah, 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 blah. Everybody has their part that they play very naturally. That's the memory. It's the wisdom. And this is the part that you see. It's that this is why those of us who are like kind of these freakish right wingers, somebody like me, I'm like, no, all of this business with vegetarianism and blah blah blah, being that I'd studied Buddhism and I'd lived around strict Buddhists and had strict Buddhist fare, so there's not even garlic or onion in it. It's very delicious. It's actually delicious food. But it is, I mean, it is what it is. To know, like, okay, if you want to build a culture, if you want to build something in the culture, build it. People will pay you. People will pay you money. They'll give you money if they like it. All you've got to do is not let it get out of control and fuck it up. That's all you got to do. If you got a place that people want to eat the vegetarian food and be communists, you make the giant communist vegetarian hall. And everybody goes there. And they eat the vegetarian food. And they talk about communism. But don't complain that nobody is doing that. Don't get mad. Because there's no place where we can hang out and be commies. There's no place we can hang out and like kind of, and it has all the shit we want. That's the whole idea. And really, women were key to this. Women are key to this because at different times in history, women would suddenly want to do something. They would want to dance. This is the French have widely been accused of spreading their dancing to the United States. Those French, there, and really, if you look into, I think, McFadden and physical culture, what's now called Fizzy, Bernard McFadden, I believe is his name. There was these French traditions of dance, and that he had formed this thing called physical culture out of it, or McFadden's physical culture system that was based on dance movement. And so the desire to be beautiful, the desire to stay young, the embracing of occultism. These are things that were widely popular among women. So, secrets of staying young. People don't know where they get sushi from. They get sushi because American women wanted to eat like the Japanese because the Japanese women age so well. And the Okinawa program. Everyone forgets this book. I didn't forget this book. I bought the book when it was one of Oprah's best sellers, talking about the longest anthropological study on a group of people spanning their full diaspora, and that's the Okinawans. 75 years. And it's a fascinating book. And it has little anecdotes, little things that they, eat till you're 9/10 full. Those of you who have been to Japan, you'll know, like 9/10 or 8/10 full. I think it's 9/10 full. We now eat the the purple sweet potato. You'll find that in health food stores. Turmeric. Everybody's into turmeric. On the West Coast, all the alternative people, they're all into turmeric. They're all into fermented foods. That was a big thing in the Okinawa program. Also in healing with whole foods. Another thing, massage therapy. Another area dominated by female culture. Always fundamentally a female culture thing. Since its inception. I mean, the massage therapy as a therapeutic method that required certification, that is a woman thing. Pretty much. There was a handful of men involved, but that was pretty much a woman thing. The idea of gambling halls, card halls, entertainment area, places of entertainment, because men want to see women. Men want to see pretty young women dressed pretty. They will buy more drinks if they know there's pretty young women around, so that they could stick out their chest and be like, I'm drinking, and how are you doing, and all, and the whole business, and just everybody loves a good time. Women understand this. This is the thing that the 60s fully unleashed, is that everybody loves a good time. It was a lie that we didn't know this before. It was a lie that we didn't do this before. It was all a lie. Everyone knew this. Boomers knew this. Everyone knew this. The silent generation knew this. The silent generation had seen this. The silent generation, the music of the jazz era, terms from the jazz era, images from the jazz era, movies from the jazz era, all of that is still in existence. The penny arcades that had sort of light pornography on them still exist. They still existed. People knew about this stuff. It had gotten out of. They were worried about other shit. They were just worried. People are worried about normal, mundane shit that normal people worry about. So we have forgotten that women were extremely powerful because of their power over the sex industry and the entertainment industry to some extent. But mostly women had power by organizing in civic societies. That's the key. And through charity, through religious charity. People have it's unreal how people underestimate the power of religious charity. This is what makes Africa has so many people leaving it and just going places, spending thousands of dollars to get to Europe, to get to Brazil, Mexico, and then get to here. All that business. All of that business is because religious charities have been subsidizing the food that Africa can't grow itself. Now these religious charities are at the stage of, they just give so much goddamn money to Africa that Africa is now like, will you please stop sending us fucking food? We have farms. Farms can't compete against free, but there's not enough organization, communication in this, and there's all this corruption, and who knows exactly where all this food goes, or who knows exactly where all this charity goes anymore. But that was, women had tremendous amounts of power through organizing in civic societies, and that's not a small amount of power. They have a budget. They're just being told, baby, go and spend it on good Christian living. Make the savages Christian, I guess, or whatever. Print tracts, or buy books for the library. A lot of people underestimate women organizing in civic societies, and well, others were reading groups. Reading circles are a thing that was widely popular. That's where you get almost all of this legendary American female literature of the Victorian period, where these horribly oppressed, wealthy white women, who got to write for a living, and I'm sure there were a lot of them who, who knows what their life was, and they wrote, and nobody knew, and it was locked away in a box somewhere, and they found it, got published. It's just there's like books that you'll read when you're around religious people. Like I have this one book that it's religious writings of American women. And it's a huge book of just all these selected writings of women in the United States history. And they were writing about about Jesus and praying, and I mean they were just writing about theology. And it was just a collection of women's writing on this. We just don't take that. We take that completely for granted. This was like a similar parallel when writing. Say the book that collects a lot of this is the Manvotional. All these writings of common men. That it turns out there was all these books by common men on the issues of men, the life of men. What is it to be a man in like the 1800s? Because all these guys are out at these mines, they are in these various towns. There's not much to these towns, especially they're working in agriculture. Most people are still working in agriculture, floating around. I mean, a lot of guys floating around. Depending on how developed the town was, where was it at as far as its development. Did you just have guys there who were doing stuff, in the local industries, mining, raising horses, cattle, whatever was going on with the dealing with local water power, such as the depths of are they dredging? Are these guys in town to dredge? And are you doing something so you got a mill run, through the town, things like that. Well, you needed women to kind of make such a life like this worth living. Now that things are easy, there's this, everyone, I think really the worst thing about feminism in a sense is how now women aren't really getting, like, you have no idea, like they don't get what men are getting up to, where we're reading all this incredible shit from the past and the present, and kind of we're improving upon ourselves. They're not really, they don't have a movement like that, and and just for whatever reason, let's just say for whatever reason, so you could detect the lack of real esteem. They really don't understand how precious they are to men. This, I really have had to think about this, where it's not that you're pretending, no, but love is like a spell. But it's also like this one moment where it's like, you do understand you are precious to me. I don't want you to leave. You know, you might be dissatisfied, all this stuff. You do understand, though, that I want you near. Don't you understand that? The love of novelty, this the dopamine rush, all the, but really a culture that says, why re- you can't really be that precious. No, you can't really mean that much to somebody else, because it's not fireworks. There's no dopamine. Now, you're not doing fabulous things and looking fabulous with people saying, "Oh my gosh, thumbs up, heart, look, oh so fabulous." Look at you. Um, it that that how could you be precious to someone when romance becomes mundane and normal? It's not a constant party or celebration. I think motherhood and how many surprises children are constantly springing on you. I think that's where women are like, "Holy crap, dude. Oh my god, and you need me all the time. Oh my god, you're covered in shit again. How did you get yourself covered in shit again?" Like, how? God, you need me. Where it wasn't with men, it's a spell, it's a game. At some point, though, he has to kind of, you have to get that that moment where she knows and you know that she knows and she knows that you know, and you're precious to me. You I value you in a way like nothing else. And it hurts and angers me to have you far, to think that then in some way I'd lose you, injures me, because that's part of the game. But to not feel like you could be precious, I just have to wonder about that. Is there that feeling? Because there's other things that lyrics from songs, way undignified behaviors, various things, industries, that at one time before it was quite clear what this industry was. It had a name, it had a place that you went to. This woman ran the place. She made quite a bit of money. Everybody understood what the score was. Not everybody had to like it. It was just understood that this is one of these, the oldest business, you know. So I've just been thinking about that one, rolling this over in my mind. Women don't really understand stuff like Etsy. Women getting paid to blog, like that they have, give me money. E-girls. It's very clear women could easily have lots of money. It's just that there's no longer a culture that says this is how you are not just an e-girl, but one day you become an e-lady. And an e-lady preserves her youth. She has grace and poise and all of these attributes that are subtle. That's one of the other things about that is men have to learn subtlety, because you can't have power in the same way when you're young that you have when you're old. It has to be different and it has to be more subtle. And there's no model for that right now for women. There's nobody who's becoming more gracious, more poised, and more subtle and are wielding power. Nobody I can think of off the top of my head. Tulsi Gabbard has that quality a bit, but we'll see if she can wield power against her enemies. Right now she says a lot, she talks a lot, but can she wield power against her enemies in the long run? Yeah. Women have much, much more power in the economy than they want to admit. They've had for a long time. Lipstick, makeup, all of these things were things once disapproved of. Beautiful clothes that attracted the eye, clothing that attracted the eye to the sexual areas. And then now, I mean, tattoos, all of the wide varieties of jewelry. Who do you think that is there to impress? Malls, men. I don't shop at a mall. The moment I knew that I could get pants through the mail, and this was my size, that was that, da da da, here's a check. Been shopping with Dickies for like 20 years through mail order. Would call them, give them a credit card number. Now you just punch and it's dead. You can do it from your cell phone. Amazon.com. Thank you very much. Another pair of Dickies. Women love going into Contempo and Forever 21 when they existed and looking at the necklace with the lipstick holder, seeing which one had the right rhinestones on it. Bedazzled items. You can festoon around this area, so the guys, look right there, right there, That's the game. That's the magic. We've had it too good. We've just had it too good for too long. So it's hard to appreciate the magic tricks anymore when you can just know how they work now. There's whole books. There's the science. It's this. We could just take a picture. You are pretty. You are mathematically beautiful. And it's saying women know. They look and they're like, I'm crazy looking. I look crazy. Motherfucker's gonna know I'm crazy from 10 feet away. Especially if they read this cat's book or look at this YouTube video or know this from the Discovery Channel. These are the measurements for a woman who is a psychopath. And so, the preciousness of women. It's this thing of, you can't just beg women, have babies, but it is this thing of, like, do you not understand? The whole thing is once you ruled your house, you once were the queen of a home. You taught the next generation. You didn't have to dream of improving the world. You did. I sit back and I'm like, when somebody made this clear, and to realize like how fucked up the left is, and that it's everywhere, from everything from a sci-fi nightmare, like it's sci-fi nightmare world, that I was sitting there like, oh my God. And it really made me understand, oh my gosh, there is good and evil. There really is. I had no idea. I knew kind of what I was seeing, but now it's like it's that moment where the clouds go whoop, and you're like, this is a cliff. That's the fucking abyss. Oh my God, it's looking back at me. Like, holy shit. With the power of Stefan Molyneux and with philosophy, here's the abyss, oh no, and I just wish there was just some model, or more models for women to say, I can make, because it's a leap of faith. It's a leap of faith. To a great extent. For them, it's a big leap of faith that everyone will catch them. Because they're betting on this guy, and that's the bet. They're hoping mom, dad, his mom and dad, anybody, their friends, family, everybody, you're gonna catch us if anything goes wrong, right? You got us, right? You got our back. That's your power. You then have a community because people like knowing they helped a mother. Who shall who shall help the widow's son? That's one of the most foundation concepts of the Western world, as you understand it. This is where hospitals come from. This is where your charities come from. This is where your insurance companies come from. Who shall help the widow's son? And you've forgotten this because a lot of this history has been stolen from you, ladies. It's been stolen. You have no idea. These men were so busy building this machine that seems like it was about to do something real weird to the whole world forever. And Donald Trump has kind of done something to throw off its mechanisms. And now in a big way, the whole species needs you to do something to really to shake things up. You got to throw these leftists off. Well, we'll see what you do. I mean, none of us are counting on you. That's the issue. None of us boys are counting on you. I'm sorry. We couldn't. There's so few of you who you even kind of seem like you're down with understanding the difference between good and evil. Like it's like real weird. Like holy shit, oh my god, why do they all like this bitch? This bitch she's like riding a demon in her video. Like what the fuck, dude? Why are they all into this shit? Yeah. So just some thoughts later.